Hey guys, and welcome to my channel. So there's been some things that have happened over the past over the past few months that are partly the reason why I haven't done a YouTube video in a while. I didn't really know how to handle it. There was a few things that happened, but before I go into that, I want to give some background to what I'll be leading up to. But I'm going to first summarize where I'm getting at before I start telling the story. So my finances have been under attack since the beginning of this year. I was doing very well last year financially, but this year a lot of things have happened. I've had to replace a car. I've had to do major repairs on both vehicles, and also I've had other large expenses as well, such as large vet bills and things like that. And I had a pretty big savings account, but it suddenly has dwindled. And because I don't work a regular job, my income isn't always consistent, and that makes it hard sometimes to be able to rebuild savings accounts and be able to pay bills and things like that. Now, thank God, I've been able to pay all my bills with no problem, because I still have a lot in my brokerage account that I've been taking distributions from in order to support myself. I hate to say that I'm having to take distributions from my brokerage account, but that's exactly what's happening. Is that I'm having to use my investment portfolio now to be able to support myself on a temporary basis, but that's what the money's there for. I mean, if I have to use it, it's better than going into debt, because debt is something I won't do. I'd rather be on the street than go in the debt. Um, but I have had some situations that have come up that I want to talk to you about. And some of these are really personal, and because of how personal they are, I don't want to name individual names in some of these situations, but I just want to be straight up with you guys about what's going on in my life, because I will be continuing to make YouTube videos. So the first thing is I want to talk about how I got to the point that I'm at today. So I worked at a utility company named Gulf Power a while back, and there was a disagreement between me and management about how a customer's situation should have been handled. And I sided with the customer, and I thought that the way that the company was acting was immoral. What they were doing with this customer. Basically, he had a dangerous situation. We had someone come out there and look at it and confirm that the situation was dangerous, and then we said we were going to fix it. And then when we come out there to fix it, we tell them that we're not going to fix it. And then the customer calls me back and says, hey, what gives? You said you'd fix this problem. And now he's really upset because he was already told that it was a dangerous situation and needed to be addressed by the person who came out there to check it out the first time. So I thought that was weird. And I also knew our policy that whenever we say we're going to do something, we do it without any hesitation. So I already knew that this was wrong. So I confronted my manager. Well, I didn't confront my manager yet, but I went up the ladder and started asking questions, and it made a lot of people really upset that were a little higher up in the company. So they sent an email to my manager, who called me into the office and tried to tell me that that what I did here was wrong. But then I argued back, and I stood up to her, and there was another manager in the room as well. I stood up to both of them and said they're both in the wrong and they need to fix the situation. And I didn't care at this point what happened to me, because I had other sources of income, and it didn't really bother me that I might lose my job. I also had a lot of savings too, so I wasn't really worried about that. And in October of 2017, I was terminated by Gulf Power, and I pursued them through the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. And while they thought there were some things that were suspicious, there wasn't really, and I did get a right to sue from them. The attorneys I consulted with didn't really thought that even if I did win, I wouldn't win enough to justify the lawsuit. So they declined to accept the case unless I paid them per hour, which I wasn't willing to do, based on what they said. They advised me that it wasn't worth pursuing, and that and if I did lose, they could come back and sue me back. So I thought I would just let things stand and let God deal with the situation. So I walked away from it, and I I was really sick of the conventional workforce. I understand that a lot of people make their livings off of jobs. I totally understand that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but for me, I'm just not wired like that. That's something I've learned over the years, and in the places I have worked. God has called me to do a lot of things, and I have to have a really fluid schedule so that I can attend to the things that God has called me to do. So because of that, I really can't work a conventional job and serve God at the same time. It's like a choice between money and God, because God has called me to such big things in my life, which I'll be talking about later on in this channel. But so I had been supporting myself by doing some online businesses, marketing the books I've already written, and that had gone pretty well. But then I had a family member who has a business, and because of a health condition, he could not continue to operate the business the way that he needed to. So he asked me to help him. So I came on at a part-time basis, and one of the things that he mentioned was that I may be able to get the business one day for myself after he retires, which this business is very lucrative. So I thought, yeah, I'll do this, and it'll also keep me from having to have a job. Well, um, I kind of left my books. I didn't market my books as much, and I also did not really attend to my online businesses a lot, because I was busy working now for, in this job, that's family owned. The whole problem isn't really having a job; it's more of being in a secular environment. And the owner of this business is a believer. So I worked, and the things I had built since I got fired from Gold Power kind of went down in their income because I wasn't able to spend as much time on it. When you have something online, you can't just let it sit. You have to keep working on it, or else you're going to start losing income. And I had a lot of money saved up from when I worked at Gulf Power. I had a pretty big sized retirement, and I had a pretty decent sized stock brokerage, and I even had some ETF portfolios that were in taxable accounts, and I was doing very well last year. And um, so I started working for this in this family business for the under the expectation that I would be able to start working full time, and then eventually possibly inherit this business. Now, God called me to do something very specific about April of last year, um, to end, in essence, I'm not going to go into the whole thing here, but it involves solving world hunger. I know how to do it, and if I can get people support, I can do it. I know exactly how I'm going to do it. It's going to involve investing, and basically the interest or the investments will pay for the food for the people that are having trouble, that are going to bed hungry and things like that. Women, children, adult males, what have you, everybody. That's one of the things that God has called me to do, to work on. But that's something that's going to take a lot of my time because this is a very intricate issue. There's going to be economic considerations. I'm going to have to bring on people to consult about the best way to use funds and things like that whenever I start doing this. Well, um, I was called to do this, and my best friend, who some of you may have seen on this channel before, she didn't tell me until after this was done, until after I stopped doing this family business thing. But she didn't think that this was the right path for me. And actually, I kind of knew too, but I tried to reason it out. Instead of chasing after God's calling that He had given to me, I tried to work things out in the natural. I tried to do things myself, my way, because I thought, well, this is easy because I can get this business, and then whenever I'm ready to start this ministry, full speed ahead, I'll have funding because I can sell this business and then be able to have a lot of capital to be able to get started. So it made sense in the natural, but it's just not what God had in mind for me. And because I think in part because I was trying to do it this way instead of doing it God's way, there was a dispute with this family member about the place of worship I was attending, which is Bridal Messianic Synagogue. That's where I go to worship at on Saturdays. I also go to Apostolic Global Church on Friday nights and Sundays, but Brett was really the problem here at this time. And he basically told me that I either had to stop going to Brett I had to not become a member at Brett because I was planning on becoming a member so I could be more involved in the ministries over there, or I had, or or I had to basically I wouldn't be able to work with them if I became a member at the synagogue. Well, I thought that was very manipulative, and I thought it was evil, and he was basically asking me to choose between where God has led me to and money, and obviously I chose where God has led me to. So that's kind of whenever I wisened up, and I said this is the wrong way. There's no way this is going to work. So I chose to quit that job. And ever since then, my relationship with this family member has been extremely strained, and there's been a lot of drama, and a lot more attempts to manipulate me into not going to certain places of worship. And I've had to endure that, and I've had to learn to pray for people that are persecuting me. Now, my family's always been, as a whole, has always been very supportive of me as long as I was doing what they said. There's been a lot of things they told me to do that just wasn't the right path for me, but I listened to them because I was so conditioned to listen to them from a young age, because I was a pretty obedient child. And but over time, as you get older, you start going your own way. God starts giving you a path, and it's not always the same path as what your family has. And I started going. So now I'm going my own way. Well, whenever I stopped working at this family business, now I don't have a lot of income online. I have some, but not a lot, and I couldn't pay bills, and I have a roommate that pays rent, which helps me a lot. But I've but right now the finances aren't looking too great in the natural. Now I know God's going to provide for me, because God always provides, and anything the enemy takes from you, God's going to give back and give you back more. I totally believe that. But in the natural, though, I'm right now, the income to bill ratio is negative, which means now and I had to replace a car at the beginning of this year, like suddenly, completely out of the blue. I had to replace a car. I had some expensive car repairs to do, and then I also had some vet bills, and I've had a pretty sizable savings account, but now the savings account is basically to nothing. And now I have to start taking distributions from my brokerage account in order to be able to pay my bills. And I will probably be able to last about 6 to 8 months on my stock portfolio by itself, assuming no other income, which I have other income. So I will last longer than that, I believe. Um, but but right now, though, I'm sort of in a not really a precarious financial situation, because I still have money in the bank and I'm not in debt. Praise God, I'm not in debt. So, but I started driving for DoorDash, and I was doing pretty good with that, but the schedule's been really inconsistent, and God has called me in the ministry full time. And once again, God had been very good to me with DoorDash. I was making good money, and I was on early access for scheduling, to where I could pick schedules before a lot of other people did. God had kept me in, God had basically done a miracle, because even though I was new and didn't qualify for early access, I still got it. Praise God. So, he's been really good with me that, but he's called me to ministry, and I'm not really able to pursue that fully because I'm so busy doing DoorDash to pay my bills. And I've been talking to God, and he has been telling me I need to be more intentional about pursuing the path he's laid out, instead of trying to make my own ways to get there. So right now I'm taking a big leap of faith by going into ministry full time without hardly any income. I do plan on renting out some rooms in my house. That's something I had been praying about, and I feel like I've prayed it through, and that God has given me the green light to rent out more rooms in my house to make money. But and God's also told, and I also know that I got a bit too focused on personal finance when I started doing these YouTube videos. I was having to check stocks a lot more and keep up with the news, so I'd have content to produce. And now I feel more comfortable talking about complex philosophical topics. And I really want to redirect the content back to the discussions about the faith, the biblical faith, whether you be Messianic or you're a Christian. We all agree the Bible is true. We all believe that Jesus is the Messiah. So I want to start focusing more on that, and that will involve speaking out in defense of the faith. Also, I will be going through some passages, and I'll be sharing some things that God's really been telling me lately, and what I believe from reading my daily Bible readings. So I'm going to be doing videos more along the lines of that. Now, there will still be some personal finance videos that I will be doing, but it will not be a main focus of this channel. And I'm not, and I really don't, I really hesitate to say there's going to be any focus for the channel, because I just want this to be completely spirit led, to where I put on YouTube what God has put in my heart. And I also am I also set up a Patreon account. I've had this set up for a while. But if you have spare money, now if you're in debt or you're struggling financially, I don't want you to support me. I think you should continue to tithe to your local congregation. But if you're struggling financially, I don't want you to give anything to me. I want you to take care of yourself and your family, and I want you to make sure you sow your seed and tithe to your local congregation, so that God can in return bless you for your obedience, even in the face of of tight finances. But I am setting up a Patreon account, so if you do have the spare money, you can, if you want to, support me for as low as $1 a month. And I will be doing YouTube videos, I will be writing articles, and I also have some big things that I'm going to be doing, that I'm going to be sharing in upcoming videos, including a new blog site where other people that are messianic can write blog posts as well. And then also, I want to talk more about God's calling to me to solve world hunger. Because of the way that particular calling came to me, I've been very hesitant to share this calling publicly with everyone, because at the time, I had a lot of doubts about the idea that we still receive prophecies from God and things like that. Because at the time that this happened, I was a bit of a cessationist. I thought that spiritual gifts had ceased. I didn't really think there was any prophecy anymore in that sense, to where God tells you the future. So I was very hesitant to talk about that, and I only talked about it with a very close inner circle. But it's something I want to pursue, and it's something that God has told me to pursue, and it's something I feel very strongly about. So that's all for this video. I'll be doing more videos that will flesh these things out. And I hate putting my personal business out there, but I felt like it was necessary to give some background about how I got to this point. I will say God has been faithful throughout the situation. He has not failed to provide for me. And I am believing that God will provide a miracle that will allow me to pursue what He has called me to do, without me having to come up with a bunch of solutions in the natural to be able to support myself. So I am just totally believing in God for a miracle. And I hope that if you cannot support me financially, if you don't want to support me financially, please send me your prayers. Please pray for me. Please keep me in your prayer, because I don't have to have your money. God has everything, and He can freely give it to me. So I just want you all to come in agreement with me as I pray for direction and for wisdom as I enter in this new chapter of my life. I am a kind of person where I do a lot of planning before I step out. And it's really hard for me to do this, because I'm used to planning first, but I'm just really stepping out in faith. And it's like when you're about to jump out of an airplane. Now, I haven't done this, but I have friends that have. But it's like when you jump out of an airplane and you see the ground and you're like, wow, this just totally got real. I can't believe I'm about to do this. And then you jump with the faith that you're gonna be okay by the time you get to the ground. That's what I feel like right now. And I have to be honest, I'm believing, I am praying, I am hoping. But this is really hard for me to do, to step out like this without a plan. After everything I've worked for over the past 7 years to build up to a high net worth, to be, it's really hard for me, because I'm putting all that work I have done over the past 7 years or so, or 8 years now. Wow, time's really flown. The past 8 years is at risk right now because of me stepping out in faith. But I know that God's going to provide. But it's still, in a way, it's still scary. It really is. I'm not going to lie. I am pretty nervous about this. But I'm going to pray for the faith to be able to get through this and be able to trust God. So this is all for this video. I'll be doing more videos in the future. If you have watched, please pray for me, and please be in agreement, and I will talk to y'all next time.